It's the 21st century, and it's time for you to break free from the old ideas, the old beliefs, the old shackles that have been holding you back and keeping you bound in misery and failure. It's time to learn the truth about your power and about what's really going on in the world. Everything that you see and experience is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. Nothing more, but nothing less. Learn the truth. Change your life. Change the planet.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Reality Changer Radio. I'm your host, Dave Dickey, and for the next half hour or so, I will be discussing aspects of the 21st century as far as changing your life and understanding the reality that is. The more that we look inside ourselves and understand exactly who we are, the less we are going to be trapped by the old school programming and the farmer mentality of everything and every solution is on the outside of us, not inside. Tonight, I want to talk about something that's very, very important, and that is parenting. And when I say parenting, I don't mean your classic concept of parenting where you have a mom and a dad, or two dads or two moms, however the dynamic looks, because none of that really matters. It's the love that counts. And I don't mean the traditional get your kids up, get them breakfast, make sure they brush their hair and brush their teeth and send them to school and blah blah blah, all that other stuff. What I'm talking about when I say parenting, especially in the 21st century, is a new dynamic. Parenting from the concept that the child is just as powerful a spiritual being as the people that are parenting. And that the ultimate goal of the people who are parenting, hence the people who are the programmers, is that the child understands exactly how powerful they are spiritually and gets at an early age the concept of self-love, and that concept of self-love and happiness will lead to success and not the other way around. Look at the world today. The United States finally has a black man in office, second term. And you think to yourself, wow, things have really changed. And we've gone to the moon and that's passé. We've ended the space shuttle program because that's passé. We're finishing up the space station and we're planning on visiting Mars. And you go, wow, things have really changed. Communism is over. We're into the 21st century. We're now not only taking photos with our cell phones, but there's also now phones that are coming out that are specifically for taking pictures. And it just so happens you can make a phone call with it. And you look at that stuff and you go, wow, things have really changed. The problem here is that things haven't really changed. All of that stuff you see on the external, while it may have its own merit, has nothing to do with happiness or success. People go, well, yeah, because the economy's really bad and I can't find a job and all that. That's crap. That's crap meant to keep you down. And people go, well, it's not crap. I lost my job and I can't get another one. And the external stuff keeps you down and keeps you from succeeding no matter what. Keep in mind that when Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, it was the Great Depression. Now think about that for a minute. Here is supposedly most of the world, or at least most of the United States, can't find enough food to eat for 3 days in a row. And this guy's talking about thinking and growing rich. And he writes a book. During the Great Depression, not only were there millionaires, but there were people becoming millionaires. And you would say, Dave, what does this have to do with parenting? The specific idea for the new phase of parenting that I have in mind is that at home, and let's cut the schools out of this for a minute because I really am a proponent of homeschooling. And I'll get into that later. But the main ingredient here is at home, the child is taught and programmed, because that's exactly what happens. The child is programmed by people who already have discovered their place in the universe. People who already are loving themselves and understanding that this is key to success and happiness. People who have already gotten the concept that as long as they do 2 or 3 things every day, that their lives are going to improve drastically day after day, which allows their lives to constantly improve drastically day after day. These people, these parents, these guardians, these programmers who already have this information and are applying it successfully on a day-to-day basis are who should be programming / parenting children for the 21st century. Because what has gone on up until now is people who did the best they could off of a farmer mentality. Now think about it for a minute. Sure, we went to the moon, and sure, we're going to Mars, and sure, we have a space station, and sure, we can take photos with our cell phone while we're talking to somebody. But all of that technology doesn't mean squat when we still have the same fears and ignorance as our great-grandparents who grew up on farms. Or your grandparents. My grandparents grew up on a farm. We're not that far removed. Folks, don't kid yourselves. It was only like yesterday we were riding horses. Okay? Guns have been around longer than technology. Guns have been around since before we were out of the farm. And remember what the farms were like. You had to work from sunup to sundown, or you were lazy. You had to have a bunch of kids to help you with all the farming you had to do because that was your plan B. You had to have more than one crop because one crop might fail, and so that's your plan B. Everything was designed around the possibility of failing at plan A because they didn't know anything else. Okay? Now, take that same mentality and put it 2 generations ahead, but then advance technology 7 generations ahead. Because that's really what we're talking about here. People walking around, and make no mistake about it, it could be your close friends, it could be your family, people you work with. You know they're just one brick short of a load when it comes to technology. We even make fun of it. I'm not that technological. Her. Ask a kid. Ask a kid. Holy crap, people. Yeah, ask a kid about technology, but don't ask him if he loves himself, because he'll say, well, I don't know. Nobody ever taught me that. Look around at the world today and see how many failures are in charge. I want you to think about that. How many failures are really in charge? Now, it's really nice that Barack Obama got in, and it was a step ahead for the black culture. But make no mistake about it, he's just a figurehead. He's no less a figurehead than George Bush or Ronald Reagan or John F. Kennedy, because the president doesn't really call the shots. He gets all the blame and all the praise, but he doesn't really call the shots. And constantly you hear about Congress doing all kinds of illegal bribes and everything, and that's just our country. Let's not even add in all the other countries that have this crap going on. These people are failures. At heart, they are failures. And the people that really want to succeed and want to do the right thing, when they get in with a bunch of failures, the only way to keep their position is to play the game. Sure, they'll have little successes here and there, but overall, if you were to ask them, were they successful with what they really wanted, and promise them that their answer would never leak out of the room you're talking in, they'd say no. Look around you. Do you honestly believe that the government is out for your best interests? Any government, local government, city government, how many times have you heard about bribes? How many times have people gone to jail? The people in charge are failures, and it's not their fault. Stew on that one for a minute. It is not their fault, because they weren't taught anything different while they were being programmed as children. They were taught failure. They were taught worry. They were taught fear. They were taught plan B has to be in place because you're probably not good enough to pull off plan A. Or, and here's the kicker, somebody else is going to be responsible for plan A not working. So then you can point the finger and take the responsibility off of yourself. And that's how we've been taught. Point the finger. Well, obviously, somebody backstabbed me because I had all of my ducks in a row and I had everything in place. Obviously, someone else is to blame. The problem here is that all of those teachings and all of those philosophies and all of those ways of thinking center around a concept that you're not in charge. You're not in charge. You do the best you can, but oh well, something gets in the way. What are you supposed to do? There's nothing you can do. You just have to suck it up. Live with it. Or if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Wrong. 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 It's right when that's the only way you've been taught. But it's wrong because it's not the way it really is. We were made in the image of essence, Buddha, God, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Whatever you call the greater universe, we were made in its essence. Okay? If you look at a brain cell, it looks like a nova or the universe. Okay? So there's no getting away from where we come from. And if you are religious at all, then you understand that we were made in God's image. We were made of God's essence. We are a little bit of God. We were also as powerful, creative spirit. We control everything. We just don't know it. And what happens is the good stuff and the bad stuff that happens in our lives all derives from the same place, the same source, us. And what happens is that our programming creates a belief system, good, bad, or indifferent, which creates thoughts about certain things, which creates feelings, and those feelings go out into the universe and they attract more of what we're doing. Basic law of attraction. What does this have to do with parenting? Are you starting to see this now? Because as long as your children and other children are taught the same way about life as you were, nothing's going to change. If your children are taught that they need to have plan B because somebody might do something or something out of the ordinary might happen beyond their control, then nothing's going to change. If your children are never taught self-love and that they're responsible for their own happiness and no one else is, nothing's going to change. If your children are not taught that they control it all, whether they like what happens or they don't like what happens, nothing is going to change. Now, I understand that this is a difficult concept for a lot of people to grasp, which is why I made the previous statement. The people who should be training / programming / parenting the children of a successful 21st century need to be the people who already have gotten the concept and are working on themselves and succeeding. That whole thing about my kids are going to have it better than me needs to go out the door. The new statement, the new tagline for the 21st century needs to be, my children live just as awesomely as I do, and their children will also. Because we all understand that we are the creator of our own destiny. We are the ones in charge. God gave us free will. You don't have to be in charge. You can live willy-nilly and wake up every day and go, whatever. But once you know that you can control it, don't whine to anybody about the consequences. Because you're in charge. The free will comes to where, are you going to take control of today, or are you not going to take control of today? Circumstances will happen to you, period. Things will happen to you, period. The questions are, have you decided what it is that's going to happen, and have you decided you don't want unhappiness? Parents, listen to me closely. The first thing that needs to happen here is you need to get a grip on your own life. And you need to understand, if you don't already, that all the crap that's in your life is not your crap. It's your programmer's crap. All the worries, all the fears, all the anxiety, all the depression, all the sadness, all the anger, every bit of it is not something that you came up with on your own. You were given all this, and you've had nowhere to dump it off. And all it's done is made a mess of your life. And some people go, well, I'm pretty happy though. Really? Are you really? Are you really? And are you only happy because you've resigned yourself to the fact that this is the best you can do? There's a lot of people like that out there. Well, this is the best I can do, so I better be happy with it. I'm okay with my life. I've got it okay. Now, I'm not knocking anybody who's happy with their life. But understand why you're happy with your life. And be true to yourself. You don't have to be true to me or anyone else. Be true to yourself. Are you only happy because you've resigned yourself to the fact that this is it for you? And so you better damn well get happy about it? Or are you truly happy because you have decided this is all you really do want, even though you could have more? Because there's nothing wrong with that either. Nobody has to be a millionaire, but nobody has to be homeless. That's the distinction everyone needs to understand. Economy schmonomy. Millionaires were being made during the Great Depression. The economy had nothing to do with their finances. It was them. And I'm not talking that everybody needs to teach children how to be millionaires. That's on them. Teach them the concepts that they can use to become the happiest janitor in the world, like my father, or the happiest billionaire in the world. But you'll notice there's a key that locks the both of them together, and that's called happiness. Happiness and love are the two main ingredients. Nothing else matters. And trust me when I tell you this. Algebra doesn't matter. All that other stuff doesn't matter. Can you read? Can you write? And then take it from there. If you want to do something, you should do it because you want to do it. Not because a regimented, limited belief, stringent system has said that you must do it. And you are going to be bad if you're bad at it. Because all of the grading, all of the principal detentions, all of that crap is built around the concept that you need to live up to someone else's expectations or you're wrong. And that is not right. That is the type of teaching that produces failures, drug addicts, depressed people, anxiety-driven, people who think they have ADHD just because they can't pay attention. You know why they can't pay attention? Because too many people were yelling at them when they were kids. Look over here, look over here. You're not doing what you're told. The madness has to stop, ladies and gentlemen. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, guardians, everybody needs to listen up. If you want the world to change, then you have to change. And if you really love your children, and I don't doubt it for a minute, then why would you constantly go back to a system that has produced time after time failures? Let's take, for instance, the concept that it doesn't really matter on a broad scale if you get a college degree. And even when it did matter, go back to those graduates, and 80% of them are not doing what they have a degree in. So why was there all the money spent? Why was there all the anxiety spent? Why was there all the sleepless nights doing tests spent? Why was there all the anger? Why was there all the sadness? Why? It's not necessary to a successful, happy life. And trust me when I tell you this one, happiness is the key to success. It's not the other way around. If you're not happy, what are you doing? And parents, I'm talking to you, grandparents and uncles and aunts and everybody. I'm talking to the family here. If you're not happy, you can't hide it from children. There ain't one of those things where you can say, well, let's have this conversation in the other room, because they'll hear you and they'll feel you. because we're all spirit. And when you hide it from the children, they get the feeling that they're to blame and that you just don't want to tell them. How many people, myself included, have blamed themselves for what happened with their parents and eventually had to go through some kind of therapy to forgive themselves because it was never their fault? Understand what I'm saying here. It's time that you take back your power that you've always had, that no one ever told you about, and that a lot of people today who are in charge would prefer that you don't know about. Because if everybody knew and acted upon the internal power that they actually have, there'd be a whole lot of things different in this world, and one of them would be the lack of need for a government of any type. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, read some of my material on the website. Listen to some of the stuff I've got to say. Look at my blog. Understand what I and others are saying. Listen to Bob Proctor. Listen to Esther Hicks. Listen to us and listen closely. Because we speak from the heart, we speak from experience, and we speak from the concept of wanting a better life for you and your children and everybody. You don't need another Dr. Spock. You don't need another professional child psychologist. You don't need that. Because again, that puts you in a position of inferiority. You don't know what you're doing. Somebody else is going to do it for you. No. You need to grab hold and embrace your own internal power. And by doing so, become successful with it. That is what you need to teach the children. How to do that. By the same token that I can create my day at work, that I can decide when my work schedule ends, even if I'm still there getting paid, using those same techniques, children can achieve miracles before they're 10 years old. There doesn't have to be all this external crap that supposedly is needed because you don't know what you're doing. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you know, Dave, I just don't have time for homeschooling. My wife and I are barely scraping by right now, and I don't know what I'd do with the child if he wasn't in school. Wrong reason to be in school. I'm not saying you don't have it difficult right now, but what I am saying is start today to change that difficulty. Start researching and understanding exactly what power lies within you and change your situation, because you're the only one that can. Okay, so you admit you have it rough. Stop it. Stop it. Is it going to be easy for you? No. Is it going to be impossible for you? No. How bad do you want it? What's your life worth? What are your children worth? What kind of life do you really want to have for you and them? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? What's it worth to you? What are you worth? It's time to commit, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to commit to yourselves. Sure, it's work. Sure, it may take some time. But here's the cool part. Everybody can do it. And eventually it gets easier. Think about it. How about getting a house you want to live in, or an apartment that you really want to live in a week and a half, and all you did was make a vision board that was digital, that sat on your desktop, because you and your wife, you and your husband, you and your partner took 15 minutes of time to use the techniques that I and others teach and use your connection to Source and make it all happen. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to go to a building every once a week or twice a week and listen to some person that never made any sense anyways, just to show your spirituality and your connection to God. The fact that you exist already shows it. And if you're one of those that believes that Jesus died for your sins, well then what are you whining about? What? There's no excuses, ladies and gentlemen. There's only facts. And the facts are this. You were raised with a farmer mentality, and your children are being raised with a farmer mentality. Unless you have already gotten the concept that you are spirit, you are powerful, you can do anything you want, and you damn well better teach your children that if you want to see a change and if you want to see them happy and successful. Here's a couple of tips. Start off by, once a day, get a mirror and play a game with your children. Look in the mirror, each one of you look in the mirror and stare at yourself and say how much you love yourself. And make a game out of it. Children love games. And children love it when they're doing stuff you're doing and you're happy at the same time. Children love that. Help them make a vision board. There's so much stuff that you can do for yourself while you're teaching your children how to do it. And you'll learn by the experience. Make a vision board for yourselves. Keep tabs on it. Do all kinds of things. Remind each other of a very happy day. Make that a game. Say once a week, I want you to remind me of a happy story I told you. And I'll remind you of a happy story I told you. And each time you tell me, I'll feel really good about it. Believe me, this creates a vibration that goes out into the universe that just creates more happiness. This is how this stuff works. Now, this doesn't have to be hard work. It is work, but it doesn't have to be hard work. Make games out of it. Have fun with it. You're not supposed to be sad. You're not supposed to be angry. You're not supposed to be depressed. These are all emotions that were handed to you because you didn't want to displease your programmers. Don't make your children wrong. Don't yell at them. They're trying their best. Don't hit them. They're trying their best. And for God's sakes, don't threaten to hit them. Because trust me when I tell you this, if you threaten to hit your children, that's what they grow up with. Now we've got another domestic abuse case on our hands. Or we've got another bully in school. I was a victim of bullies. I know exactly what that's like. Everything you do with your child has a consequence later on. Everything. Do you smoke? Don't smoke in front of the kids. But also, not just don't smoke in front of the kids, don't smoke. Or if you're going to do that, understand that they can smell every essence of that smoke on you. So just because you went outside and you tossed a butt, they can smell it on you. You're not fooling anybody. When it comes to kids, you do not fool the kids. Just because they're... Look, the main reason is because they are young. A lot of people go, well, it's just a kid. No, that's your worst nightmare when it comes to fooling somebody. How many times have you heard the story of kids finding hidden Christmas presents? And you're like, how the hell did that happen? No, you can't fool kids. You can only endear them to yourselves and teach them love and happiness. But you can't teach them anything you're not practicing and expect them to toe the line. It's not going to work. You can't be sitting down drinking whiskey every night and teaching them to be sober. It's just not going to work. And you need to start analyzing how quickly you can pull them off the grid. And what I mean by that is taking them out of the mainstream teaching organizations and schooling. Because, believe it or not, Columbus did not discover America. Okay? Even the Vikings, who were here hundreds of years earlier, did not discover America. I'm not even sure if the Phoenicians, who were here like 1,000 years earlier, discovered America. Okay? And if you don't know what I mean by that, go ahead and start researching mooring rings on the cliffs of Maine, and you'll find out that they're Phoenician mooring rings. Yeah, believe it or not. Long before Columbus. Okay? But that's still taught in school. And we celebrate Columbus Day. So that's what you're up against. Do you want to keep that going? Because that's all part and parcel of the failures of society. The big lie. Okay? The biggest massacres aren't over in the Middle East or in India or in Africa. The biggest massacres, lest we forget, happened right here when we killed all the American Indians who were standing around defenseless with their children. But it doesn't suit the textbooks. And it doesn't suit certain politicians. Break out of the mold, ladies and gentlemen. Have children that are going to change the world like it's never been changed before for the betterment of all. And understand this. All of that's external anyways. By osmosis, the world changes when you do. You don't have to go to rallies. You don't have to run for the cure. Because listen, if that worked, you wouldn't need to be doing it for 100 years. How many more marathons, how many more walkathons, how many more anythings are we going to have before we figure out that the billions of dollars raised every year to cure this and cure that doesn't cure crap? But when you look at some of the centers around the world that are actually curing things, they are pulling more away from traditional medicine and going with alternative resources. And it all has to do with your spirit. If you can believe that a placebo drug will cure your warts, and it does, and all that's in it is sugar water, what can't you do with your belief system? What can't you do? This is what you need to teach your children, how powerful they are. They don't need to have a bad time on a date. They don't need to have a bad day in school. They don't need to get bad grades, even though that really doesn't matter, because it's somebody else's way of telling them they're wrong. But they don't even need to get that, because they can control all that. And I don't mean by staying up all night long studying with 27 books that are affecting their vertebrae because they're holding them on a backpack coming home. It's insanity. We need to stop the madness, ladies and gentlemen. We need to focus on what's real and what's important. And what's important is our happiness and our connection with spirit. Get that wrapped tightly around you, and your life will change like you've never known it before. Wouldn't you love to be able to control every single day at work? I'll give you an example. What if you could wake up in the morning, spend 5 minutes while you're still groggy, because that's the best time, because that's in your theta state. And you visualize while you're laying in bed, you visualize what you're going to do because this is what you want to do. And you just overlay a clock that shows when you're going to be done with it. And what if you did that every morning and it came true? How awesome would you feel? Well, I do it every day, ladies and gentlemen, and you can do it too. It's just one of the many techniques that are available to use that I teach, that Bob Proctor teaches, that Esther Hicks teaches, and others. Okay? So parents, do yourselves a favor, do your children the bigger favor, and start teaching them self-love and happiness today. Because tomorrow may be too late. They're going to do something you just don't want them to do. So now I'm going to sign off here. But don't forget, we've got upcoming events on the 29th, I believe it is. I'm going to be in Fullerton at the Owl's Lantern doing a wealth seminar. And next month in April, going to be at the Learning Light Foundation in Anaheim. We're going to be doing a 6-hour manifesting intensive. Parents, if you listen to this and you like what I had to say and you want to learn all the tricks and all the tools, come to the 6-hour intensive. You will not regret it. And we're also giving away over $400 worth of stuff. We're having a raffle. So check out all the info on my website, whatyouthinkiswhatyouget.com. Email me if you need to, realitychanger57@gmail.com. Or call me, 310-756-2419, and say, Dave, I heard your broadcast. Wow, what's my next step? I'd be more than happy to help you out. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to have an awesome life. Parents, awesome life. Children, awesome life. I love you all, and good night.